Space Marine 2's prestige perks. Now, the prestige perks have been causing a little bit of a ruckus lately. However, the main thing that I need everyone to remember is that they are data mined. So these may not come into play or actually be even remotely accurate. However, from what I can tell, a lot of the things that have been data mined from this game are like 90% accurate. So it's, yeah. Hopefully, though, none of these actually come in, just because none of them seem to actually benefit what is actually going to be what the class is actively meant to be around, which is really weird. Anyway, let's just have a look at some of these, because I don't know. So up first we have Tactical. The level 1 prestige perk is each consecutive melee hit or attack increases headshot damage by 2% up to 10% for 3 seconds. The only way really that in which this is actually going to be useful is going to be within like gun strikes, and honestly I don't know if they actually take benefit from headshot, whether it's just a separate gun strike multiplier. It sounds good, but in practice, I mean, unless you can up that to like 10 seconds, maybe. But 3 seconds? No. Max primary and secondary ammo increases by 10%. I don't know what it is with this game, and just having things at like the lowest percentage possible. Like, a 10% increase in ammo is like 20 rounds. A 10% increase in mag size is like 2 rounds, maybe 3. Like, this isn't a worthwhile increase. Make it like 30% or don't bother. All specs scan is refunded if no targets are hit. This is actually really good. However, I would like to know how this works in conjunction with one of the talents for Tactical, where scan doesn't affect Minoris targets. Would that still count as a refund? Because technically it's still hitting them, it just doesn't affect them. I don't know if that's like the right wording. So that's something I would like to know personally. That's like the only one on this list so far that's actually worthwhile. Restore all spec scan by 10% when picking up ammo. That's great for lower levels. In higher levels, yeah, not so much. Stims restore 25% health. I don't get the point of this, considering on higher difficulties the idea is for stims to heal less and less. And negative 25% damage taken when under 50% health. Does this apply to the armor? A lot of this kind of now reads like all spec scan restores 25% faster when under 25% health at level 7. A lot of this now reads that people are, the more casual player base, are struggling with going into things like lethal, where they're then trying to cater to the more hardcore player base with adding another difficulty. It is pretty damn clear that the difference now is the simple fact of they now can't balance perks with the overall gameplay. A really easy way to demonstrate this is just taking a quick look at Assault. Armor regen delay is reduced by 15%, which is 3.75 seconds. That's mostly a non-issue. The issue Assault has, especially on higher difficulties, is because we're unable to tell what's around the corner. If we're on cooldown, we have no way to close that gap to get within melee range, which is where Assault shines, which means we end up taking a pummeling, getting to doing our damage. So yeah, actually having a defensive option rather than a regen option would be better here. On performing a gun strike, you do not lose control and cannot be knocked back. That is kind of nice, but again, it's not really necessary, just time your shit. Perfect parry window is increased by 25%, that's great. Health is increased by 10%, this isn't benefiting anyone, especially considering other health perks are always 20%, it just feels like a no-no. Negative 10% damage taken when 5 enemies are closer than 10 meters. That's great if you're playing up to substantial. Above that, this isn't helping you, especially due to the way in which Assault works by just diving into the middle of a ton of enemies. 10% reduction in damage does nothing. Like, if anything, that should be, and I'm not even joking, that should be like 50%. Easily, with the way in which Assault works. It doesn't have a shield to block range attacks like Bulwark does, so having that huge damage reduction is really going to help it out. Range weapon damage increased by 10%. Why? Like, I'm sorry. I'm aware there's possibly other weapons, but I'm pretty sure 90% of the people that play Assault are using Thunder Hammer. Restore jump pack charge for reviving a teammate. Like, where is the killing 10 enemies, like, because Minoris enemies will refill the jump pack charge? Or just, I don't know, like, killing X enemies in certain consecutiveness will restore X amount. Like, for each Minoris enemy killed, you restore 5%. For each Majoris you kill, you restore 10%. And Extremist restores 20%. Like, you're an Assault. The whole premise around it is the jump pack. Where is it? This is just terrible. The only one on here is Perfect Parry window is increased by 25%. The rest can just... they don't do anything. Vanguard, I kind of feel like, has the opposite problem. For example, increases range damage by 15% if the target is closer than 8 meters. Who on Vanguard isn't using the melter gun thing? Who needs another 15% damage on that damn thing? Like, are we kidding? Like, it's very clear that people, like, someone over at Saber is playing favorites, like, immediately. Increases all damage by 25% and ability cooldown reduced by 20% when under 20% health. Cool. Thanks for that. So I can have a 40% increase in damage on a Vanguard as long as I can manage my health at 25% and just run through and basically one-shot everything. Thanks. When performing a gun strike, you do not lose control and cannot be knocked back. I mean, again, just time. I'm sure I would find this useful. I would. But then at the same time, I'm really bad at the game. So I just need to get better, and that perk basically becomes redundant. Increases health by 10%. Again, this is a cop-out. Everywhere else is 20%. Negative 15% damage taken when using a grappling hook. This is nice. I don't really play Vanguard that much, so I can't really say as to how useful this is. That being said, restore an armor segment for killing 10 enemies in rapid succession. My issue with this is, what is rapid succession? I have used so many perks utilizing like heavy, which are like, oh yeah, kill 10 enemies in rapid succession and you get XYZ buff. I'll kill like 50 enemies in what I would consider rapid succession, like 5 seconds. It doesn't activate. What is rapid succession? Increases equipment damage by 15%. I feel like Vanguard just doesn't need this. If anything, I would say put that on the heavy, weirdly, as it's just an extra source of damage for heavy because they don't really have like a melee styled thing at the moment. Wait till we see the prestige. So like, I just feel like there could be just, that could just be completely foregone. Give it something else. Bulwark, restore all, question mark, secondary ammo on extremist or higher finisher. This actually is pretty good, simply because where Bulwark doesn't have like a great range option, you do tend to chunk through your range ammo pretty quickly, or at least I do. However, my concern with this is, and I'm sure we've all seen it, you put 90% of the work into killing something like a Carnifex, a Hellbrute, and then just as the finisher activates, some random comes along and goes, my finisher. Kick. Is this anyone doing the finisher? Because if so, that would actually be worthwhile. I kind of feel like the only real way in which any of these could be of benefit is if they are all team-wide buffs. If they are all team-wide buffs, then fine. If anyone is to do the finisher on extremists or higher and it restores all secondary ammo, fine. If not, I'm sorry. It's a good idea, but the amount of friggin' kill stealing is unreal. Stims restore 25% more health. I honestly just feel like with Bulwark, it should just be melee kills restore X amount of health. Like, even if it is just like Majoris or higher, melee kills restore 5% health. Fine. Increases charge attacks by 15% damage. I quite like this. I don't use my charge attacks anywhere near as much as I should on Bulwark. Range weapon damage is increased by 10%. I actually don't mind this. Although Bulwark is very melee focused. I do find, like, particularly with like Neurothropes where they're flying. As a Bulwark, if I have no ammo, I'm just stood there staring at it going, oh, that's a pretty bug. Yeah. Restorability by 1% for each attack blocked. That's really nice. I actually quite like that. Invulnerability duration when activating the banner. I feel like this is a cop-out because that should just be a thing anyway. How many times have people as a Bulwark playing on like Ruthless or Lethal being stuck in a corner and you need to get your banner down but you can't because you're being staggered? The moment I press Q, even if it was I still take the damage but I can get that banner down, I'd be fine with it. Like, I feel like this should just be part of the Bulwark's kit regardless. Like, maybe not like invulnerability, but at least let me get the banner down. So I feel like having to get to Prestige 6 to have what should just be in the game anyway is a really, really bad move. Remove negative status effects for allies too. Yes, when activating banner. This is actually quite nice. However, my complaint here is I feel like Bulwark is very quickly being taken away from like the damage tank style of play to just being the only true support in the game, which is really, really weird. So as much as I like it, I kind of wish there was more in the sense of Bulwark actually being a damaging tank. Sniper, the one class I haven't actually played yet. Invulnerability, duration question mark when activating cloak. I imagine a lot of them would like this. Reduce weapon spread for your secondary. You're a sniper, my guy. Armor regen delay reduced by 15%. This again, I feel like is a cop out. Just rather than do that, just have it like as you kill something, just give a certain amount of armor regen. Easy. Secondary damage is increased by 20% after switching weapons. I actually like this, but again, I'm a heavy main, so of course I'm going to like this. You do not lose control, and you cannot be knocked back for 5 seconds after performing a perfect parry or perfect dodge. This is all well and good, but considering how squishy the sniper is, I kind of feel like that should just be invulnerability, because okay, yeah, you can't be knocked back and you can't lose control and whatnot, but you're still going to take the damage, and something like a sniper taking a hit from a venom cannon from a Tyrannid warrior is still going to mess you up. Health damage is reduced by 15% for 5 seconds after armor is destroyed. I don't feel that's a high enough value. I quite like it, but I don't feel like that's a high enough value. Again, I've not played sniper yet, so sorry. And then range damage is increased by 10% for 5 seconds after a gun strike. Sniper, gun strike, close range, sniper, long range. Honestly, this should just be Prestige level 1. Range damage is increased by 10%. Prestige level 2, range damage is increased by 10%. Prestige level 3, range damage is increased by 10%. Prestige level 4, range damage is increased by 10%. Prestige level 5, headshot damage is increased by 10%. Like, you're a sniper. Come on. I don't know, maybe I'm being an idiot because I've not played sniper yet, but like, I hear the word sniper and I've got like a very set collection of rules in my head, and none of this works with it. And then finally, heavy. Oh god, endless chain stomps. I don't understand what this is. If they're referring to the heavy's charge attack of where you just stomp around, we can do that endlessly anyway. We just keep pressing the button. Restore all question mark secondary ammo on extremist or higher finisher. No, primary. Like, honestly, heavy's biggest problem is ammo management, especially if you plan on using the melter. You have like 20-ish rounds, like 24 rounds, and if you use on like lethal, ruthless or lethal, use the ammo box, from empty to full leaves you with like 6 ammo left. Like, honestly, the level of negligence on the heavy is absolutely ridiculous. Health damage reduced by 15% for 5 seconds after armor is destroyed. No, you are in Gravis armor. There are a lot of people, right, story time, There are a lot of people that are wanting Terminators as a class within Space Marine 2. Did you know that in the Primaris editions, Gravis armor is the new Terminator? We have a Terminator, essentially, and it's the Heavy, and he has the exact same armor values as the Tactical, the Bulwark, the Assault. You're wearing a heavier armor, but with no added benefit. At the very least, Gravis should come with 4 armor bars, and one of the perks for Prestige should be +1 armor bar to give you 5. Next up, melee damage is increased by 20%. Are you high? As someone who mains heavy, yeah, I'm really well known for my melee damage. No. Health damage is reduced by 15% when performing a melee attack. No. Removes negative status effects when activating Iron Halo. I actually also want to say no. I mean, it would be nice, but at the same time, it's actually not that much of a benefit because it just isn't. It really isn't. And you do not lose control and you cannot be knocked back when performing a charged melee attack. Who wrote this? Someone who has never played fucking heavy. Oh my god. So yeah, needless to say, I'm not impressed with the Prestige things. The only way in which I can see all of them working is if they are all team-wide. So regardless of who does what or who has what, all of the perks work for all of the classes. And the only reason I say that is because honestly, that's the only way in which I can see the melee side of things with heavy coming into play. Simply just because having a heavy and a bulwark in the same team is actually really good, because the bulwark just gets all the aggro and does all the bulwarky stuff, and the heavy just does heavy things behind the bulwark trying to actively deal with them. That being said, if they are individual and only affect the specific class that you have them on, I do have a few ideas. Let me know what you think. However, I'm just going to be showing the heavy for now because I need to give a little bit more thought into some of the others. But this is my idea for heavy. Prestige level 1, +1 armor segment. You're a heavy. I still think that at base you should have 4 armor segments and then +1 armor segment would give you 5. But at the very least, even if this just puts us to 4, I would be happy with that. Level 2, ammo share. You get 50% of the ammo that allies pick up. So the ally will still get 100% of the ammo that they pick up from varying different sources. But if an ally picks up 10 rounds, you get 5. Not sure how the balancing of this would work with things like the multi-melter, because when you pick up like the individual ammo boxes that are scattered around, each ammo box is like 1 or 2 ammo. I think it's just 1. So I'm not sure how it would scale, but yeah. Iron Halo. On armor break, Iron Halo activates for 5 seconds. This will damage and push back all enemies that are in contact with it. There will have to be a cooldown for this. I'm not sure how big the cooldown would be in terms of like balancing. I would like to say like every 30 seconds, but I feel like that would be too often at the same time. Range damage is increased by 20%. Obviously, we're a heavy. Of course, not melee damage. Weapon heat is reduced for each kill for Prestige level 5. This does kind of leave out the multi-melter, but I feel like that's really strong anyway, especially with like another 20% increase. But the heat reduction would be depending on the enemy you kill. So if it's a Majoris, you get a 1% reduction, Majoris 2%, Extremis 3%. Can't put these values too high. We can't have you spamming like all 500 rounds on a heavy bolter in one go, and it will be on kill, so that way when it comes to things like Carnifex, Neurothrope, Hive Tyrant, Hellbrute, bosses, etc., you can't just sit there and pummel them with a 500 round mag and call it a day. There's gonna have to be pauses, there's gonna have to be movement. Prestige level 6, Bastion. The longer you're in heavy stance, the more damage you do, up to like 20%, which would be like a 1% increase per second, maybe 2 seconds. And then at level 7, Sacred Rounds, after killing a Majoris or higher enemy with your heavy weapon, so shooting them, not in finisher, it restores 5% health. So yeah, that's my idea for heavy. Let me know what you think. I'm not a game dev, so I tend to make things a little bit unbalanced and kind of obviously want things how One thing that I definitely do think needs to happen with the heavy is some form of ammo management, an increase in ammo size. And I'm not talking 10%, because if you're running the multi-melter, you get like 24 rounds. If you're not using the team perk for plus 20% ammo capacity, you get like 24 rounds. So a 10% increase in ammo pool is 2 more rounds. Like, no. If anything, like, unless we're talking like a 50% increase, like another 10 rounds, it's not worth it. And there obviously definitely needs to be a rebalancing overall with things like the heavy, assault, and Vanguard with the prestiges. The assault has like no form of way in which to manage the jump pack. Heavy is weirdly all about melee. You're heavy, and is still really, really squishy in comparison to others. And then the Vanguard, I feel like, is honestly just swap heavy and Vanguard prestiges and I'll be happy. Like, at least that would make sense. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.